This episode is presented by Visit Cedar City Bryan Head Tourism Bureau. Discover the art of adventure at Utah's gateway to the parks. Cedar City is within a few hours' drive from 6 different national parks and monuments, and only 30 minutes from fresh snow at Bryan Head Resort. Check out visitcedarcity.com to plan your next trip. This episode is sponsored by the Cedar City Business and Innovation Center. Dedicated to supporting local businesses and entrepreneurs, it provides resources and services aimed at fostering business creation, growth, and retention. The center features the Makerspace, where entrepreneurs and small businesses can have access to 3D printers, video production and photography equipment, t-shirt printing, and more. Whether you're starting a new venture or looking to expand an existing one, the Cedar City Business and Innovation Center offers the tools and guidance to help you succeed. To learn more and get involved, visit innovationcenter.cc. Hello and welcome to the Explore Local podcast presented by Visit Cedar City Bryan Head in partnership with Cedar City Iron County Economic Development, produced by Dallas Smith Media, and I'm your host, David Johnson. All right, and welcome to the Explore Local podcast. Today we have Cyndi Wallace and Paul Monroe, both with the Cedar City Rotary Club. Cindy's a board member, and Paul, you are past president of our local Rotary. Okay, well, welcome. Well, do you want to give us just a lot of people hear about Rotary or these service clubs, right? But a lot of people don't know what they do. And in some areas, you've seen kind of a lot of these service clubs kind of fade out. But Rotary in Cedar City it's probably one of the most active I've ever seen and really successful. So I don't know who wants to maybe give the 30,000 foot of what Rotary is.
I'll jump in really quick. Yeah. It's a vibrant club for sure.
Yeah.
We've been up and going, and that's why we're here partly. We've been up and going for 100 years. So we're actually celebrating 100 years this year, but like you said, some of them have struggled, service clubs over time.
Yeah,
but ours is up and going. It's moving. We get new members all the time, and we just love it. We love the community here, and we're all a group of people that just want to give back.
Yeah,
and so I joined Rotary over 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
And part of that was part of that heritage of my grandpa being a part of the Lions Club and seeing the things that were built in my own community when I was growing up, right? And wanting to give back. And that's ultimately what it is. It's those that want to give back to the community. But there are tons of things that we do in the community. And most of the things that we're able to do and the good that we're able to do all derive from a couple of fundraisers. One, as we all know about, the July Jamboree.
Yeah, we'll talk more into that. We'll get some
awesome festival.
Yeah,
and then other than we have a golf tournament, which is coming up here in a couple of, it's about a month from right now. So it's the second week of May. Okay. So that's we invite anybody who's listening that wants to come and put a team in. All those proceeds go right back into our community in lots of different projects and also foreign as well. So I've got some experiences too that I've been able to experience through Rotary internationally. Yeah. And maybe we can talk on that.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to touching on some of that as well. Yeah. And you said you've been with Rotary 10 years. Yeah. And Cyndi, how you had mentioned earlier before the show, 20 years.
Yeah.
What initially got you into
well, actually, I got into it through my job. I was the nurse administrator at the hospital.
Oh, really?
And,
okay.
So often they want representatives from, services or companies in the community. And so I was asked to join because of that. And then I became really entrenched in the service. And when I retired, then I was able to do more and more service. And so that's kind of my focus now. It's a very service heavy organization, much more than any other that I've seen. We do so many different things, ranging from, local little tiny things and then big things and international things. And so I love this community, and that's why I want to, be part of Rotary, is to give back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really awesome. So 100 years, what are you going to do to celebrate 100 years in Cedar City?
We're doing kind of a twofer.
Okay.
So the West Canyon Park, we're doing a grand opening for that we've worked on for 7 years now. And
you're going to have to give a lot of details. So give the highlights and then let's jump into the details.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're doing a big birthday bash.
Okay.
And it's a big community block party, basically. We're going to have food trucks and music, and we're going to have activities and speakers and things. And it'll be great. May 28th at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. And that's in addition to your annual July Jamboree and your golf tournament, right?
Yeah. Those two are fundraisers. Those are our major fundraisers for the year.
Gotcha.
And that's what funds all the rest of our endeavors.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going with the 100-year celebration. So tell me, you said that project you're working on for 7 years. What does that entail, and why is it taking 7 years? Not that 7 years is necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes projects take a while.
Right? They do take a while, yeah.
Yeah, he's been very closely working on this.
It's 3/4 of your tenure at Rotary.
Yeah, right. It is. So, and what it was is, as I was here in this community, new member in Rotary, like you said, didn't really know all the ins and outs of how it all totally worked.
Yeah.
But my kids were young and little then too.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're in high school and a lot older. But my wife was going down to St. George and taking our kids to splash pads.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, why don't we have something here? And then my background, of course, is I work for the Water Conservancy District.
Yeah,
and
you're the executive director, or what's the official title?
Yeah, that's right. Yep, yeah. I'm the director there. And so, it's like, well, splash pads are not very popular as far as how they might waste water.
Yeah.
So we have this great opportunity with the Canyon Park, with a natural stream that goes through it. And we're like, how can we just utilize that pass-through water and just let kids play in it more so it's more accessible and not as dangerous, and add in some play features to it.
Yeah.
So that they could hop in and enjoy the water, and the downstream users still have full use of the water.
And you'll still have the little creek running through, right?
Yeah, right. So it's just the ditch that comes off and goes through the Canyon Park. We've just totally redone a large portion of it. We've added in sand for little toddlers, and we sheet the water out and make it wider so that little kids can get in and play.
Oh,
and then
really?
upstream from that, there's some diversions, which are called weirs, that stop and slow down the water, so that people can understand, kind of the historical uses. Basically what we did is we wanted to tie in all of the historical kind of water uses of water here in Cedar Valley. And so
using it as an educational piece as well.
Yeah. So there'll be little kiosks that explain, hey, this is,
cool.
This is the irrigation practices going all the way back to when the Paiute Indians were here. And we'll educate and just show our heritage of water and how important water is to our community here.
I love that you're tying in actually what you do professionally to provide, and with Rotary, to provide something educationally, because water's a big deal around here. But educating history of water here, how we've been able to survive, because without water, we don't really survive or continue. But then make a cool play feature for the community. One of my daughters is like, I don't know about that park, and we're new here. She's like, I liked it. Are they going to get rid of the creek? And I'm like, no, they're keeping all those features. They're actually making it better. And she's like, oh, okay. All right. It's good then. It's good. And I'm like, and then there's a splash pad or something that's happening. You want to, keep going. I interrupted you.
Yeah. So those parts of it, like some of the splash pad parts are Southwest Plumbing built a mock pivot. So center pivot is the new latest technology for irrigation practices. And so there's, just educating the public on, how much water, we actually use and where we can save and do better. And
you're gonna have to describe mock pivot though, real quick, a little bit more detail.
Yeah, good. Like, so a center pivot is if we go out and drive through the valley, you'll see these circles that the farmers grow their crops in, and it has these towers, and the towers move in a circular pivot, like circular motion as a pivot. And so there's just a small model pivot that will have water that will come out of it
to help them see how that functions, and
and
on
so
a small scale from the practical level, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's bringing, kind of full circle as far as what we do, and not having just generic play equipment, but actually having things that are, what we do and what we've done here. And the other large portion of it is all abilities. BZI, another local company, is pitched in, and they're doing a water table. so that people with all abilities can get in and play with the water, and it'll be at table
that
height.
Is so cool.
And then there's a future phase as well that will be all focused on all abilities of the park. And so those are things that we want to focus on. In fact, we had the groundbreaking last April, so a year ago. And when we broke ground, when we were getting things set up, there was a girl from Chrysalis that came up to Sue. And, hopefully I don't get emotional here, but she came up and if you don't know, Chrysalis is a group that has kids with all with disabilities. And she came up and she said, hey, we really appreciate that you're doing this. And she said, people don't think about people like us. Mm. And so, that's it. That's why we're doing it. It's like, hey, this is a need in our community. And that's why we're here, is to fulfill those needs. And it's above and beyond just having, okay, for me, there was a lot of selfish reasons originally. So to have a
place your kids could go.
For my kids to play,
right.
A splash pad. But it's beyond that.
Yeah.
And that's really the whole mission of Rotary too, is beyond that, is, it's making things better. In fact, if I can, I want to share just a really quick quote. And this it's been brought back to a couple of different people, but basically this, I'll summarize it. But basically what it is we all sit in shade from trees we didn't plant. We drink from wells that we did not dig. And because of that, we are all thrive together as a community. Mm. And that's kind of the basis of this whole project too. Like, you look at us in Rotary, and the average age is probably, over 60 or 50,
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people think of when they think of these service clubs, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's people that are older, and we're not building a splash pad for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is something that we want to do to put back into the community, along with all the other things. I mean, our previous big project that we did was when Rotary itself turned 100 years, and that was 20 years ago. That was when we built the Veterans Park, so all the war memorials that we have.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is probably, as you go up and down I-15, I don't know that there's a better one in the state of Utah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Especially for our size of our community. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So
yeah. Well, yeah, and in fact, for those that are listening, I mean, think about the parks you go to, no matter where you live, and you'll see a Rotary or a Lions Club or something like that. And I used to always think that maybe it was just like there was some sort of sponsorship involved with Rotary or Lions Club, but I didn't realize how involved these clubs are in creating those public facilities, I guess is kind of
very hands-on.
Yeah, very hands-on. Yeah, which is so cool. And it makes sense if you have people like yourself that are, and you got involved with the hospital, who are engaged in the community in other ways because you're seeing needs in other ways. You mentioned Chrysalis. Doesn't your wife, did you say your wife works for Chrysalis?
No, she doesn't. She's a nurse. But
she's a nurse. Right. Oh, okay. For some reason I was thinking that you had said you had family member involved with Chrysalis or something, but and a lot, maybe it's just because I'm thinking there's a lot of people in the community that have talked about Chrysalis and working with them and some of the needs that those youth have in addressing exactly what you're saying. And when you were talking about that and said, hope I don't get emotional, you didn't get emotional, but I could feel your care, if that makes sense. And to me, that's a lot what these service organizations are all about, right? Okay, so you talked about that project, and there was one other that you listed, right? There are two. Wasn't a project. You said there's twofold. There was first the 7-year project, and then there was it was like
the 100-year anniversary.
Are you going to do that are you going to do a ribbon cutting with this project and
together?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the 100-year anniversary is going to be ribbon cutting this project all in one. So you're kind of rolling it all together. Okay, and that's May 28th.
Yes,
and we don't have all the fine details yet, or do we have all the fine details on that?
We do pretty much. Yeah, it'll be 5 to 7, and we're going to have, so to help fund the second phase, which is all abilities, playground, equipment, more of that. We have some, but more of that. We are doing duck races in the little
like the
stream,
the rubber ducky races.
Yep. So we have 800.
Ernie is what I think of when I think of that.
We have 800 rubber duckies that you can buy, and then we're going to have races. We have great prizes, and so that'll be kind of fun to do. And we have 4 different categories. We have preschool and school age and high school and adults, and so it should be great. Yeah,
nice. So people can, and they take the number of their duck. Some people get. I've seen some of these in other communities. Some people get kind of crazy and decorate their ducks so they can kind of watch it and see it.
Well, we have the ducks that are they're molded in different careers. Like there's a
firefighter duck or
firefighter or policeman or a princess or we have lots of them. So you can choose which duck you want.
Yeah. When my kids were younger, my daughters would have liked princess as a career. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
So what else do you have going on at the 100-year celebration?
We're going to have music and we're going to have food trucks and there's other activities. We have some speakers. All of the city council will be there. The mayor will be there. Todd Boyer, who's our Rotary district governor, is going to be there and will speak.
Okay.
Of course, we'll have the committee who's put this whole thing together, for the 7 years. They've been working very, very hard on this. Sue Longson and Paul Monroe, they're both co-chairs, and they have just worked tirelessly, to start from just an idea and then move to it coming down on paper first for years. We saw, we kept seeing it come around the Rotary, and then to actually see it in fruition. It's just, it's wonderful.
Yeah. In fact, talk about why sometimes these projects, or in this one specifically, why do projects like this sometimes take a while to come to fruition?
Yeah. So we were fortunate that we were able to get some RAP tax funds to go towards the project. And so part of that was gathering enough money, which that money comes around annually. So we kind of fundraised for a couple years, and COVID didn't help, right?
Yeah.
So we were kind of out the gate. 2017, we hired somebody to design it. We had the design, and then there's the whole process as you go through basically the municipal process, because it is a city park and it's going to be maintained by the city and with Rotary's help as well. But you just have the process of hearing the public. And so there was a lot of design changes that happened. That there were some things that were taken in or taken out or put back in. And so there's just a large process there. I think that we had over 20 public meetings when you consider.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When you consider the different, city council meetings.
Right.
And, the different planning meetings and and the RAP tax meetings. So there's just all of that whole process. And it just took a while. COVID probably took a couple years from us.
Yeah. Right.
But at the end of the day, I think we ended up with a really good product because of that as well.
When it's been thoughtful process.
Yeah, right. But definitely been a thoughtful process and just working, hand in hand with city and staff and making sure that we have everything that's right. And even today, we have some, that pivot that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that we've got to adjust on that and make it just, make some tweaks here and there to make it more safe and kid friendly. And all of that is just working with the individuals that actually know that better than what we do. But so it's just been a process for sure. It's been a labor of love. Like you said, it's where my wheelhouse is water. And so, I'm just thankful and just so excited to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was there yesterday. And there's water going through that stream today, and I was there, and there was just kids there just enjoying it and loving it, and I'm just like, yes, I'm just so excited that people are loving it as much as we do.
This is a random tangent, but I went to high school in Arizona, southern Arizona, where we had lots of canals, and kids love to just play in the water. But canals, as you probably know, can be very dangerous because of like the undertow or whatever. And the other day, my wife was talking about some open ditch and told my kids, oh, you could play in there. I'm like, well, don't ever play in it if there's like a lot of water. But this is an area where it's safe and accessible for kids to go play in the water. Parents just go chill in the grass while their kids are having a good time, especially with the hot summers that come around. So,
yeah.
Tell me, I'm going to ask you some of the boring questions. How much did a project like this cost? What percentage did the Rotary like contribute, and how did you get those funds to make that possible? Because that's some of the back of house stuff people don't think about to make a project like this happen.
Yeah, so I just have to say we have an amazing community. We, through the July Jamboree, we're able to almost generate $100,000 in revenue. So it's an amazing. It's
every year.
Every year.
Wow,
yeah.
And that's your net revenue, or is that gross?
That's our gross revenue.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So that, there's some expenditures on that side, and I don't know the exact numbers on that.
Sure.
But we're bringing in close to $100,000 to put that on. Of course, it's all volunteers, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not all of those funds haven't gone directly to that, because we do a lot of other amazing things, like the Children's Justice Center, the Women's Crisis Center, all of those different organizations we generously support and have, helped construct their buildings and help do lots of different things. And
the food pantry at Fiddler's Elementary, we run that for them. So,
yeah. So there's lots of branches. There's a list that's a mile long of things that we support, down to, Little League baseball or soccer or whatever it is. But specifically for this project, we had put $100,000 towards it over the last several years. We were able to get a $150,000 grant from the parks, the state parks department. Yeah. And that was part of the trails. So if you've been to that park recently, you've noticed, well, part of the reason we had to do the trails is because we were going to be under construction. And so we have lots of races and things in the city.
Yeah.
And so now we have a bypass trail, or two different paths where you can go on alternative sides of the park.
Right.
And so we were able to do that, and the bridges are just amazing. And so that was partly funded there. And then the remaining portion we were able to raise through RAP tax funds.
Okay. What's that?
And the total cost of the project, I think we're about $750,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
just for phase 1. So phase 2 is the rest of the playground equipment,
which will have like the spongy, if you've been to a park somewhere else where it's spongy, so you can have a wheelchair accessible to all of the amenities that are there. And the swings and everything, they'll all be all abilities focused.
I like that stuff way better than the bark or whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, you don't regularly see somebody trying to push a wheelchair through bark, and that's because it's difficult, right? So.
Yeah, right. That is crazy to think about. Well, and it's so cool to think about the partnerships involved in making that happen, which is why, and that's kind of why I was asking, why does this process take so long? To help people know and understand that, getting a park, and especially one that's well thought out with good public feedback, it takes time. And we may want something today, but that's going to take time to get, because the funding involved, the who owns it, who's going to help maintain it. Like, you have to be able to answer all these questions, which takes a lot of community engagement. And in fact, one thing you guys made me think of is, so often I've worked for various cities, and so often people, or I should say organizations, will come to a city and just say, hey, we need help with this. We need money, or we need volunteers. And most of the time the city's like, well, that's not what we do as a city. We're just helping keep your water running and your roads. And some people may argue they don't even do that. But we do. And usually on a tight skeleton crew, most of the time government workers on every level is the kind of skeleton crew. But organizations like Rotary, that's where Rotary comes in. You talked about helping the Children's Justice Center and some of these the food pantry. That's where Rotary can come in, where you already have, people don't need to recruit volunteers if they can coordinate with an organization like yours, because you have an army of volunteers already at the ready, wanting to do service projects, right? I don't know if there's something you guys want to kind of add to that, or what your thoughts are on that.
Man, there's just I can think of 20 different things. You know, I mean, there's
name a few that you've loved being involved with, or that had a lot of
Wreaths
success.
Across America is one that comes to mind right away. You know, where we volunteer with that. I know that several members are involved with, and we help sponsor the Happy Factory toys. There's
putting up the decorations on Main Street for Christmas and for Thanksgiving. We help with that, you know.
That's awesome.
Another big one is removing graffiti. So some
really?
members are very highly involved with removing graffiti, and we appreciate them. And I know that they were up at the Canyon Park making sure that it looks good, because there's, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Planting trees up at Bryan Head.
Yeah,
we've done that for several years. Where the burn was, we go up there. We're going up in a couple weeks, I think, and going to be planting trees up there.
And that helps prevent slides from happening. Erosion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've probably planted thousands of trees since that's happened.
Yeah, every year we've done it.
So. And within our own community, Sue Longson had received another grant, and portion of that went towards this Canyon Park too. But we got $15,000 of trees that were planted last year and this year, just within the different parks in the community here. So we love to do those things. And the same thing, right, with planting the tree is many of us aren't going to sit in the shade of that tree.
Right.
It's not going to be, it's going to be 15, 20 years before that's producing the shade.
Right.
But that's for our community. That's for the kids. That's for the people that are coming after us. And we just want to make it a better place than what it was when we were here.
Right.
And local Rotaries throughout the world do this. They do this exact thing. I was down in San Jose, Costa Rica in October, and we were on a tour of downtown, and I looked over at the public bathroom, and it was a brick bathroom that was standing there on the edge, and I looked over, and there was a Rotary symbol. They had put that up. It was the only public bathroom downtown.
Yes.
And
thank you, Rotary.
That local Rotary did it, know, so that, and I see that all over the world that I've traveled. I see Rotary stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
I think our last 20 years, we've partnered with St. George Club in building stoves in Guatemala.
Oh, really?
And so I actually took my kids and a couple of my nieces, and we went down a year ago and built stoves in Guatemala. And that's just an amazing, humbling experience. But those are, that's a service project that's just amazing. And you wouldn't be able to do it any other way except for Rotary. There's lots of organizations. You look at, some of the turmoil that's in our nation, but one thing that Rotary does is it bridges all of those gaps, and truly looks at the humanity and seeing how we can help each other out. So that's just an amazing organization to be part of, for sure.
We have a very diverse club and age wise, and all creeds, colors, religions. I mean, nobody really even knows, that, because
you're all just friends.
Yeah, we're all friends, but we're all very, very focused. I mean, hyper focused, laser focused on service. Yeah. What can we do? That's what we always say. What can we do to help? Service above self. That's the motto of Rotary International.
I love that. Well, and and I kind of was saying this when you started talking about Wreaths Across America and naming some of these things, but I just keep thinking of, I used to also do nonprofit management, and I think of all these nonprofits that are always struggling. They need more hands. They need more help. And even cities need more hands, need more help. And you guys are doing projects that would cost taxpayers a ton of money to pay staff or hire someone to put up decorations on Main Street and beautify it. Or whoever owns the land where you're planting those trees for Forest Service or whomever it is. And then service projects with some of maybe these need organizations. I just think of these nonprofits. If somebody's involved with a nonprofit and you need a hand, partner with Rotary or become a member of Rotary. And then when they're saying, what can we do? If you're part of another nonprofit, you can say, I know what we can do. We need help with X, Y, or Z, and there's always, and that's what's great about these service organizations having kind of a diverse or eclectic membership is there are needs that you probably saw as a nurse, right? Mm-hmm. And there's needs that clearly you saw as not only a parent, but also working for the Conservancy District, and you're able to meld those and come up with projects that are going to benefit beyond just what you do in your own little world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
we had an amazing project. Oh, I guess it's been going on for a couple of years, but it just blew up this last year, and it was the Thanksgiving boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Describe that a little bit.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we became kind of the major supplier for the Thanksgiving boxes for the Care and Share. And how many we do? 250, something like that.
200 this year.
Yeah, I think something like 250 boxes.
Wow.
The Rotary Club gathered and took over there for them. Wow. Of course, their need was much bigger than that, but it was a huge portion of their need that we provided,
That's crazy to think about. I mean, we're not exactly small town. Cedar City proper is not as small as it once was.
Right.
But even just to think there are more than 250 families that need a Thanksgiving box on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah. That just blows my mind.
And that's some of the things that you learn too when you come to our meetings as we have presentations by these different groups. And it's astounding to see, the homeless population or those that are underserved in our community and those that are going hungry in our community. And I mentioned some really neat projects we've been a part of in Guatemala, Costa Rica, around the world. We've also helped build incubators in Africa, amazing projects. But even here locally, you drill it right down, and there's a lot of significant needs here within our community, and we're just happy to be a part of the solution for some of that to help with that.
The Cedar City Rotary Club has a legacy too of providing service, and this, interestingly enough, when we were researching the history of Rotary and things like that at the SUU library in the archives, we found out that this park, this Canyon Park, when it was originally built in 1968, the Rotary was involved in it and sponsoring it and providing, hands-on plus money and things like that. So now we're renovating what we,
That's
did in
19.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. So they had they had some high school kids. Like, hey, we'll pay you guys all summer long if you'll work to clear all the trees and the brush and stuff. And so, there's a couple of news articles about it. But so the Rotary Club paid high school kids to go out there and clear it off and clean the park and get it prepared for the park that it is today.
Sounds like a good summer job.
Yeah.
And now we're doing it again, So.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about what people kind of, if they don't know anything about Rotary in Cedar City, and they may not even know that you put this on, but let's talk about that July Jamboree, because that's your biggest fundraiser, isn't it?
Yes.
What? Give me the 30,000 highlight, and then let's maybe talk about all the fun stuff with it. So 30,000 foot highlight. What's July Jamboree?
Yeah. So July Jamboree, it's the best festival in Cedar City. So if you have lived here, been around here, you've noticed that in the middle of July, Main Street gets shut down for a car show. Yeah. So
a big one.
Yeah, a big one. Yeah. And it's so unique, right? I don't know of anywhere else where they shut down a Main Street where you're able to just enhance and be immersed in the downtown community of our community, and bring in the classic cars or whatever the fancy cars are. And so, if you're a car person, you love that.
More than 300 cars.
Oh, wow.
So it's a huge one.
Yeah. And it keeps on growing. And so we've expanded now. We're into the park. But there's something for everybody. There's tons of food, there's games. And of course we have lots of businesses that show up and hand out their swag or whatever it is. And it's because of those businesses that come and support that, and the community that comes and is involved, that we're able to, generate the revenue to do the good things that we do. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of 30,000 foot, is that it's a car show. And it's a cool one and a unique one.
Okay. So now give me some fun stories. How many years, first of all, how many years have you been doing the July Jamboree? Do you know?
20.
I think it's more than 20. Yeah.
Before you started then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact number.
And with the car show, I love car shows. So I personally love more I love the really old antique ones. But my favorite are the classic muscle cars. Those are my favorite ones to see. But do you have different categories like your Model Ts, your classic muscle cars? And I know it's more of a thing the last several years, at least that I've seen, where you're seeing like brand new cars, but they're like spiffed out Ferraris or something. Yeah. Do you have that too? Or what are they kind of?
We do. We have it all. We have it all. And they're not sectioned off. But what we do have more of is we have returning people that have been here since it started.
Really?
And they have their spot and they're very particular and they want to make sure that they have their car's going to come and be in the same spot.
Well, they come up from Vegas. They come from California. They come from all over Utah.
Oh, wow.
Because it's one of the biggest car shows in Utah.
Yeah. That's so cool. You said about 300 cars?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome.
At least last year. I don't know how many now.
Tell me, let's start off with your favorite car that you've seen or some of the coolest ones you've seen.
I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind right away is there was a Kobe Bryant car last year. That was pretty cool.
What do you know what kind of car it was?
It was a Corvette.
Oh, did they just air spray it or something?
Yeah, air sprayed. Like the trunk had, mock trophies and things. And then on the side, there's an actual image of Kobe Bryant. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Little homage to the late Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Gotcha.
But there's so many unique ones. And for me, I love to go and see the amount of effort and work that they put into a lot of those cars. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite classic car is, so I love the Corvette Stingray in particular, but there's one particular design of it that they did it, and they only did it in that I've noticed, 2 different years, 1969 and 1981, where the back of the Corvette Stingray, instead of curving down, kind of the spoiler is like almost built into the trunk where it kind of goes up. The 69, 81's cool, but the 69 is the cooler one. And anyways, that's kind of, my dad would tell me, he's like, Corvettes were always cool looking, but they weren't really the fastest ones as some of these other ones. Yeah. I'm not a huge car guy, but I randomly know cars.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds like you do.
Is that, I don't know, is that a rite of passage of being a man or something? I don't know what it is, but I'm not like out there working on the cars or anything. But what's some of the oldest vehicles that you've had at July Jamboree? Do you know? Have you had a Model T?
At one point, I know that we've had a Model T in the past. I haven't seen any there recently, but
I don't know that they've had that old ones, but yeah.
What's the furthest distance? I'm quizzing you guys. Do you know what the furthest location somebody has traveled to come?
I don't. I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Put something in your comments.
I know. I'm quizzing you. Okay.
Something that's unique that we've had the last couple of years is we've actually had interest from semi-truck drivers. So we've had some semi-trucks and they come in at the end of the show and or towards the back, and there's a couple different semis that come in.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's kind of unique and interesting to see that come in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that is awesome.
There's a lot of those guys that like to trick those out too.
Yeah, they do.
They like to make sure that their trucks are nice and lots of chrome.
Yeah, well, people that I know that are into, it's so funny. How do I know people that are into semi trucks? But there's people that are big into semi trucks, and this was 25 years ago or something when I had a buddy that was big into it. But it always reminds me of the kids' TV show Cars, where Lightning McQueen, he lost his semi Mac, and he's looking for Mac, and he drives up to a truck and he's like, Mac. And the truck turns to him, the semi turns to him and he's like, I'm not Mac, I'm a Peterbilt. It's kind of like Ford or Chevy.
Right. Yeah. I remember growing up, and that was the same thing. I had a friend that his dad drove truck, and his dad drove a Peterbilt, and there was nothing else.
Yes.
I mean, you couldn't even look at another truck.
Yeah.
Stupid Kenworths or whatever it was.
Exactly. So that doesn't really surprise me about semis wanting to come in and show off now too. That's actually really cool. So this funding that you get, you take your net and you put it basically in your bank account for Rotary, and then that's the funds you use for various projects or service oriented things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a couple different avenues too. Some of our funds go to Rotary International, and then they have an investment
like
section.
a percentage you send off. Okay.
Not specifically these. They come from some of our own dues, but those get reinvested, and then they'll come back to the club in form of grants. And some of those grants, I don't know if this is where you're going. I'm sorry, I'm off a different tangent, but like a lot of those grants that we get back, for years we've done dictionaries for third graders throughout the whole region. So Garfield, Beaver County, Iron County. Yeah. And we've given out dictionaries, and that's part of, Rotary has 7 emphasis on different things, and literacy is one of the main ones. And so that's one where we've had, I think it's been a part of the club forever.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We have conversations on like, okay, well, how much longer are we going to do dictionaries? But there's still something about holding a book in your hand and being able to review that, because, things are becoming more and more electronic.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Okay. So we know you've talked about how you guys have gone to places for Rotary, but we know Cedar City is very much a tourism location, right? Especially in those summer months. Well, even in winter months with Brian Head. What do you see internationally, or even just beyond Utah, of tourism, people coming to I think that's part of what I was getting at. What's the furthest somebody's come to bring something to the car show? But do you see a lot of tourists that are
I would say our biggest connection has been the Korean Monument, War Monument.
Yeah. Kapyong, right?
Kapyong, yeah. I mean, that's just such an amazing story in itself.
Yeah. Do you want to tell that story briefly?
And I don't know that I could do it justice, but I could do a little
the highlights.
Just the highlights, right? Like, we had our Triple Deuce over there, and there was, if you imagine the Red Hill right here type scenario, we had the Triple Deuce, which is these large howitzers that shoot missiles a mile away. But what happened was the army, the opposing army started coming down. You imagine the hill, Red Hill, they started coming down the Red Hill, and it got to a point where they had to lower their howitzers at like ground level. They were defending themselves almost.
This is in Korea, combat. Though.
Yeah,
I know you're using the Red Hill as a comparison, but just for clarification.
Yeah, I'm just trying to paint the picture, right? Because that's what it's been explained to me as. And as they came down, basically what happened is they were able to push them back and defend some of the Marines that were up there, and as well as some of the others, and we didn't lose any of our soldiers in that. And there are still people today in Korea that are so grateful for that, and it's the city of Gapyeong in Korea, and
which is a sister city for Cedar City.
Yeah,
they refer to it as the miracle of Gapyeong, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so much so that they sent us over this huge monument rock that if you go there today to the Veterans Park, that's sitting there from that, and I think that again bridges the gap too of like that was Rotary's project 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that brings in people from all over. I mean, you can go, it doesn't matter, like you said, winter, spring, summer, there's people that are there visiting that war memorial every single day.
Yeah.
And it definitely brings people in, and there's people here that are visiting that. And we ran some numbers similarly on the Canyon Park, and we're going to have similar interests. And people, you think of the people that are coming in from Eastern Nevada that are coming over here to Walmart because it's the closest one to shop or whatever. And they're going to be able to spend the whole day here now. They can go and they can play with their kids, and then they're going to go get something to eat, and it's just going to, kind of snowball. So between that and Parowan and Garfield County, all of those areas, this is, it's kind of like when I started out and I said that, my wife was going to St. George every couple of days to take our kids to a splash pad. Well, we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's
People can
great.
Come here.
Well, too, what's interesting too, I'm glad you brought up Gapyeong and how that's actually attracted people from internationally to come visit it. in economic development, I have had several Korean companies actually look at the area of recent. And it's so cool to be able to say, look, we are a sister city with Kapyong, and here's the miracle of Kapyong. And some of them are very familiar with it. And there's a great little video somebody produced, and that I'll send them. So that's a very interesting tie, not only to tourism, but to economic development. And it's interesting, and I didn't know until today that Rotary was involved in, but it doesn't surprise me, involved with that monument there. Internationally as well, that I just recently learned, is my daughter is really good friends with an exchange student, which happens, that exchange student happens to be staying with you, right, as of right now. But Rotary sponsors that. What does that entail? What does that mean that Rotary sponsors the exchange student program?
Yeah, so the exchange program has been going on forever, but the basis behind it was getting youth and kids to experience other cultures, but basically to bridge some of those cultural differences.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strife and a lot of things going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps bring the humanity and bridge that gap of, we're all humans, we're all trying to do the best. And sometimes politics gets in the way of a lot of those things. But it kind of gets back to the root and the basis of what Rotary is. And we do. We sponsor exchange students. We have to, in order to get one to come and stay with us, like we have that student that's with us right now, and she's amazing and fun, and she's really good friends with your daughter, and I think headed over there this afternoon.
Yeah, good kids.
But they, the emphasis is that, that we want to provide a better future, and we want to have everybody recognize that, hey, these are just humans just like us, and they come from a different country, different background, and they're not bad people, they're not. These are amazing people everywhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, I love that you've said that. And I'm not going to say the kids' names, but the young woman that's staying with you had told my daughter, "Oh, you should come visit me. You should do foreign exchange." My daughter's like, "Well, I don't know if I'd do foreign exchange." And I said, "Well, when you graduate high school, I'm totally fine with it. If you want to plan a trip to go visit her, that would be so cool." And my daughter was like, "Really? I could do something?" I'm like, "Of course you could do something like that. If you want to, we can save up or do something to that effect." But at the same time, she was telling me how the exchange student was saying, "I would love to maybe come here to SUU, go to college here." I guess the debate is her home country, I guess university's free. But she loves it so much and has enjoyed herself so much here that she's actually considering, maybe I go to college here. And I love breaking down those barriers where, like you said, where we see that someone in Germany or, South America or Asia, they're just like you and me, and understanding and working through some of those cultural differences. It's fun.
Yeah.
I grew up in the military, and so I didn't ever get to live internationally, which was totally sad, because a lot of my military friends or people I know, they're like, "Oh yeah, I lived in Germany," or "I lived in, I lived in Taiwan," or wherever, military bases internationally are at. I never got to do anything cool, but when I did move around the States on military bases, it was always very much a melting pot. And I love that. And I remember as a kid, exchange students from all over the place at some of the schools. I went to 10 different schools by the time I graduated. So I met a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a cool program. So
I got to highlight one more.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So last year, or maybe it's been 2 years now.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So we had an exchange student that came across just as the war was starting in Ukraine, and he was from Ukraine.
Oh yeah.
And he was staying with one of our families here, and just crazy. He came and spoke to us, and he's getting towards the end of his senior year, and he was just saying how grateful that he was because he would have been entered into the draft over there. But the host family was able to help him continually and has got him enrolled in SUU and is going to SUU, and he's been able to stay here because of that. Not saying that not serving is the right thing to do. But I was just saying that, it's pretty amazing that for him and what he wants and what he's been looking for and what he loves about America is those freedoms and the ability to be able to do what he's doing and not have to be involved in war is, just kind of another thing that we've been able to see and witness as far as the peace that can be provided through Rotary. Better
someone's life. Yeah. This is a random tangent on actually Ukraine, not getting into the politics of it, but my stepmom, her late husband has relatives and everything that live out there in Ukraine. And actually her late husband spoke like 5 languages, was like a consulate general. They lived all over the world. But I remember some of her late husband's family was reaching out saying, hey, we need help. We'd like to come to America, or we need a financial help. And that was a hard thing. But when there's service organizations like this that individuals can turn to maybe help in a different way if they can't help directly by having someone come necessarily move in with them or funding them. There's service organizations that provide options for a better life, especially with youth. And youth, so many times in those kinds of circumstances, are the unintended consequences, right? And so it's cool to hear these programs helping better people's lives. And a lot of countries where, at least my experience when I was young, a lot of foreign exchange students would often come from countries where they didn't have the opportunities that they might have here. And it just opened a world of opportunity for them in a very positive way. And it was almost like, I moved in the military a lot. And so in the military, you were always like, when you moved somewhere new, it was cool because you were the new kid. And that wore off after about a year. And then you had to, figure out actually who your friends were. But with foreign exchange students, it's kind of that new kid thing. And like everybody just loves these foreign exchange students. And then before the new kid charm wears off, you get to go back to your home country, and they're probably a little homesick a lot of times anyways, but random tangent. But I just thought it was cool to talk about that as something that I didn't realize until just, I think when you and I were at some track thing for the kids, and you had mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, I had no idea Rotary was involved with that. Does Rotary help fund their travel or stay, or how does that work?
Yeah, they help fund a portion of everything. They like the students when they're here staying with me, I'm responsible for myself personally responsible just for taking care of them.
Yeah,
just like they're my own kid.
Yeah,
food, travel, whatever.
Yeah. Do you guys only do like one a year, or how? So what's the frequency and I guess volume of students?
Yeah. So if we get somebody from our community to go to a different country, then we'll be able to get one to come back.
Oh, so that's how it works.
An actual exchange.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so it becomes
exchange student. Gotcha.
A little bit difficult, right? And so it's almost like you have to have the momentum.
I see.
And so we already have one next year that this girl's staying with me. She stayed with a different family for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And then has rotate through 3 different families while they're here. There was another boy that was in the house that was there, and he said, "This is amazing. I want to do it." So he's going. He's already found out where he's going.
Where's
he's going to? I believe it was Finland.
Okay, I was going to say there's a young man on the track team that told me he was going to Finland. So I don't want to name the names of the kids, but I thought, well, that is random but cool. But I didn't know. Again, I didn't know it was through Rotary.
And that way we get somebody to come here again.
Yeah.
We try and do it every year.
What a cool experience. I wish as a youth, that I would have known more about opportunities like this. That's just so fun.
Yeah.
Even now as an adult, I'm like,
I look back and I wonder, would have I been brave enough though to do that?
I know. Yeah. I have the same question, and I really admire these kids that are brave enough to do that.
It's pretty fun. Amazing.
Totally step into a whole different world as it goes. Well, okay. So, we've talked about a variety of things. What are some things that maybe I'm not thinking of, or that I'm not aware of that Rotary does that maybe you guys want to highlight?
Well, Rotary International does, their big push is for polio eradication throughout the world.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been doing this for years.
Well, and that probably started way back in the day when polio was really a big issue, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think the polio vaccine was it in the 50s, 60s, somewhere in there?
60s, I think, early 60s.
Early 60s.
So Rotary started about 120 years ago.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
And then just trying to recall our conversation.
Yep, you got it.
And then probably 50, 60 years into that is when polio got really bad, right? And so for the last 50 to 60 years, that's been
it became
one of the main
part
focuses.
of their mission in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think it was
80.
it
was even
was
later
85.
than that. It did. Oh, interesting.
That's when they adopted it as, hey, we're going to help eradicate this. And we're so close.
Yeah.
We really are. There's only been a handful of cases this year. I think they're in Afghanistan and a couple other places that are just difficult to get into.
Yeah.
But really, you couldn't get in there any other way unless you had, unless it was a Rotary group. And so,
right.
We're grateful that way. We've been able to get into a lot of countries over the years to help get that eradicated.
Because they're not political.
Yeah.
So Rotary is not political in any way.
Apolitical.
So, right.
Yeah. Real quick, and then there's something I want to say kind of about this. Explain for those that don't fully understand, what is polio and what is its effect?
Yeah. Well, we better ask the nurse on that one.
Yeah.
Well, if you remember the iron lungs, so the polio,
the iron lung helped somebody's lungs move forward. It moved their lungs for them.
There were people who lived in those for the rest of their lives until they died. And my dad actually took care of many people who were in the iron lungs. And as soon as the polio vaccine came in, we were living in Palm Springs, and he drove me up to the LA area where they were giving the polio vaccine to get the polio vaccine for me, because he was so scared that I would get it as well.
Well, yeah, because it's so describe what the effects specifically are.
Well, it's different for different people, but it causes muscle paralysis, causes the paralysis of your muscles in your chest to, let you breathe. Walking, a lot of times you can't walk. You have to wear braces and, well,
and hence the iron lung, because you're, the muscle paralysis prevents you from being able to function enough just to breathe, which we don't even think about the muscles that takes to breathe. And so the iron lung is helping do that.
Well, nowadays, of course, they would use a trach and they put you on a ventilator or something. But back then, that's what they used. I mean, and in some ways, it was better because people, even though your muscles were so weak and so forth, you would live. Yeah. And you would have to live for years in those, so.
And there was, even those that made it, they may have lasting effects.
Yeah.
I remember, and for a lot of people that went to SUU here, they probably remember too, there's Professor Psychology Les that, every day he wrote the same thing on the board. Why do we do the things we do? But he had got polio and he had a slight limp, and that was, but you don't see that anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's because we've, since the 50s in the United States, we've
eradicated
it's eradicated it here. There's just a few other places in the world
because of the vaccine.
Yeah. A few years ago, I read an article of a guy that I can't remember how far back, if it was 2 years ago or 8 years ago. Time starts blurring lately. But there was a guy who was still utilizing an old iron lung, which really shocked me to read that. But you guys have mentioned eradicating. And that's something I actually want to emphasize is when you think of, let's find a cure for cancer, let's find a cure for AIDS, let's find a cure for Lou Gehrig's disease or whatever. And I'm no doctor, so or nurse, but some of these things, we're working hard to find cures for those things, eradicate those things. But honestly, it's like, that's an impossible feat, is what it feels like. To eradicate cancer, you know how many people, my mother, a stepbrother, so many people I know that have passed from cancer. A lot of people have beat cancer and been in remission. But there's so many things, diabetes, that it's like, can we eradicate these things? Polio is something that we've actually eradicated, that we've actually done something about through a simple vaccine. And I'm not trying to get political about vaccines or any of that, because I know there's different feelings on that. that is something, and Rotary obviously has been involved with that. That's something we've actually been able to accomplish as mankind, humankind, to do it. And when you say, oh, there was two cases of it in, I think you said Africa, Afghanistan. The fact that we know the only 2 cases in a year says something of how effective that's been. And it just makes me think, oh, maybe we can do something about cancer or diabetes or whatever the case, whatever it is. And I, like I said, I'm no doctor or nurse, so maybe someone might be listening to my examples thinking, well, diabetes, you can't do anything about cancer. I don't know. But it just, there's so many health effects, right?
Well,
so sorry, I'm blabbing.
Well, when they made that statement in the 80s, it was very radical.
Yeah.
And many people throughout the world went,
that's impossible.
I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. Right. But the reason it has worked is because of the network in Rotary International, plus, a lot of other, funding that has come from the Gates Foundation and, places like that who've also thrown in to this. But they made this statement and said, we are going to do this. I don't care what it takes. We're going to do this. Yeah. And everyone went, whoa, okay. I guess we're going to do this. Yeah, we all get on the road, right? Smallpox has been eradicated.
That's another one. Yeah.
Completely eradicated. And it's because of international abilities to, get into places and do the vaccine.
Yeah. Well, and I think of chickenpox. When I was a kid, everybody still got chickenpox. If you knew someone that got chickenpox and you hadn't, your parents wanted you to go play with them so you'd get it and get it over with or whatever if you hadn't had the vaccine, right? But now that's not even a thing. As a parent, I didn't even have to worry
you have a vaccine
about that with it. And again, I'm not trying to purport any of the political stuff that's around that. But to me, to say that we've eradicated polio or smallpox, that's just, it gives me hope for some of these other things that, and for me, cancer is probably the one that's most top of mind from family members that I've lost or family members that I know going through that. And because a lot of times I feel like, oh, there's no hope. But if you just look at breast cancer now they look at as one of, and colon cancer is 2 of the easiest preventable and most easily overcome type cancers because there's things that we've learned to be able to do that. And again, that's a random tangent, but when I hear what Rotary did to come together and make that statement in the 80s, it demonstrates to me as we come together as humankind, as, an apolitical effort to help resolve some of these problems. That's what service organizations are really about.
Exactly.
And that may sound dramatic in the way I explained it, but there's so much truth to it. And what Rotary has done in regards to polio, I mean, that just really demonstrates it. And of course, there was a lot of other players, but the way you can, if you make that your mission. Anyways, I can obviously I'm blabbing.
You highlighted it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. It's really great. Anything else that you think maybe you want to talk about with Rotary and maybe let's ask this question. We've talked about service. We've talked about how you've been involved, but for each of you, tell me your why. Why Rotary? Why be involved with this?
Yeah. So I'll start off. That's okay. First of all, I had somebody invite me. I had Frank Nichols invite me. So he's one of the great Rotarians here in Cedar, and he's always inviting people to come. And I had wanted to join something. I thought it might be Lions Club because that's what my grandpa had been involved with and others. But I had just seen, and I just always aware of what was going on. Because I grew up in small town Utah, Scipio. And so, my grandpa was involved with building the rodeo grounds and the parks that were there. And the biggest thing for me being involved with, the type of government is I get really kind of frustrated when people look to the government to try and solve their problems, right? It's like, no, we don't have to do that. Like, we don't have to have the government involved to have them build us a park. Yeah. Like, we can do that like it has been done forever. Like, let's just get a group of people together and let's do it. And so that's kind of where my initial involvement was kind of at that really local level of, we don't have to have government involved in everything. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't have to be the answer, and they shouldn't be the answer. Like, we should want to make our community better ourselves. You can work together with government, but they don't have to. Yeah. Right. Solve all the problems. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where it started with me. It was more of like, I'm tired of people complaining or things like that. Why don't we just get out and do, right? Like be more involved, get out and do. And so that was my initial why. It's grown as I've learned about Rotary, I've learned about Rotary International, as you know, I've gone to the different international conventions and you know, traveled around the world. It's amazing to see how much bigger Rotary actually is. Just the you know, 5-minute conversation we had on polio, you know, that really blew my mind when I, you know, learned more about that at an international convention. And so there's many layers to it that's deepened my reasons for why. But initially it was, you know, let's make our community better ourselves. Let's not have government do that. Let's do it ourselves.
Well, and if I can almost say that same thing in a different way of, let's not just complain about the things we want. Let's do something about the change we want to see in our community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Cyndi?
I would echo everything that Paul said, and just to make it simplified, I love this community. I'm a transplant. I came from Arizona. I came here 27 years ago. I love this community. You know, when I was here, after I joined Rotary, my husband died, and one of the first people who called me on the phone was a Rotary member, and they basically said, "What can I do? What can we do?" And I love the community that is willing to do that. And I want to give back. And the way I give back is through Rotary. And I, you know, have other things that I volunteer for too. But this Rotary Club is so laser focused on service. That's what I love about it. I have family members back east who are in Rotary and have been for years. And I've gone to their meetings and so forth. And they're not quite as
well organized,
active and focused as we are. And I love that we're focused. And, you know, probably 3 or 4 times a week, I'm doing something for Rotary, you know. You know, I'm going to go here. That's for Rotary. I'm going here and doing that. That's for Rotary. You know what I mean? So, and being retired, what else am I going to do? Right?
Yeah. There you go. Well, let me ask this question for those. And I'm kind of in this boat. I'm so busy between work and kids and other things I volunteer for and just trying to find 15 minutes to myself at times. What do you say to people that, like, when I have these conversations, I'm like, I desperately want to be involved in something like this. What do you say to those who are like, I would love to get involved, but I just don't have time for it? What's your thoughts to that?
Well, you're working. I was working, and I wasn't able to be as involved when I was at work. But I could do some things. I couldn't do everything. But I can do this one thing. And that's kind of my motto is, you know, you can't do everything. You can't fix everything, but you can do one thing. You can make a difference in one place. And then, you know, as I gave up work, that's, you know, 50 hours a week that I have that I can devote to other things. And so
that's really good. That's really, I mean, that's exactly it, right? I mean, you do what you can. There are different opportunities too. Memberships have changed a little bit, allowing more flexibility. There's just service memberships, there's full memberships, different types of memberships. So if you wanted to be a part of the club, of course we want everybody to be a part of it. But you know, if there's only certain service projects you can be a part of, come and do that. Or, you know, if you're super busy or whatever, I mean, just come out once a year to our golf tournament and
help support it.
Put your
July Jamboree.
Put your company's name on that, and you can advertise at July Jamboree or at and you know that 100% of whatever you do goes toward right back into our community. And we could have brought a list. We talked of probably about, I don't know, 20 different projects we've been involved in today. I know that our current president, Randy Allen, that's one big thing that he had is every day or every meeting, he brings out the list of all the things that we have done this year. And it's a massive list. And just to remind all of us as Rotarians of, oh, wow, we actually do a lot and put a lot back into the community.
Here's the difference we're making. Yeah, I really like that. Because in my mind, I was thinking, and it may vary from person to person what they'd like to be involved in. But like when I hear some of the stuff like about the food pantry or homelessness or, maybe I'm trying to remember the organization you guys were talking about that helps someone that maybe are in compromising circumstances. What's the local
Women's Crisis Center?
Women's Crisis Center. And there was another
Children's Justice
Center. That's the one I was thinking about. When I hear stuff like that, I'm like, oh, if there's a service project with that, even if I'm not a Rotarian, I would love to know about it because I would love to go help with that if I'm available, right? And so that's kind of what I was thinking is, okay, if you join the Rotary, you may not be able to go to every Rotary lunch every week. And I think for me, that's part of my hesitation in getting involved in some of the service organizations is I feel guilty about not being able to go to every single meeting, but you don't necessarily have to. I think what you said about find one thing that you can go and get involved with. And
it's really an avenue. It gives you an avenue for, even if you do one thing a year or one thing every 2 years, it gives you an avenue to know what the needs are. Mm-hmm. And it gives you an avenue for doing it, for volunteering in this and volunteering in that. And when you know about all of the things that the Rotary does, it's so diverse and the people are so diverse that I think that you could find something that would fit your needs. And everybody would find, we have more than 100 members. And so, not all of them come to the luncheons because when I was in the workforce, I couldn't, most of the time I couldn't come. Yeah. But I would see the opportunities for volunteering and I would go, oh, you know what? That's on a Saturday. I can do that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. I am so grateful that you guys came with Cyndi Wallace and Paul Monroe with the Cedar City Rotary Club. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait till people can listen to this podcast episode.
Well, thanks
for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.